Naruto, God-level system author, Blue Water God. Chapter 111. Hatake Sakumo came to ask the guilt. After solving this tsunami, Xiangchen turned around and went back to the place where he traded with Yunren, and Yunren was gone. In fact, after Xiangchen punched the 8 tails, Yunren had already retreated, and Xiangchen, who opened the Tensian chakra mode, was outrageously strong. Although AI and Yunren's troops were far away, they were still caught by Xiangchen's fist wind. Hundreds of Yunren were killed by the fist wind. AI was scared to pee when he saw this scene, and while Xiangchen left, he quickly carried the 3 generations of Raikage on his back, and greeted the Yunren troops to escape. I didn't see Yunren, and Xiangchen didn't care either, released Tensigan's chakra mode, and then returned to Konoha's station. When Xiangchen returned to the Konoha station, he found that the atmosphere was not right, but Xiangchen didn't care and went back to his residence directly. Brother Chen, you're back. Someone was looking for you before. Xiaonan ran over and threw himself into Xiangchen's arms. Is someone looking for me? Xiangchen was a little puzzled, then looked at the shadow clone next to him. The shadow clone nodded, and then disappeared into smoke. And Xiangchen received the memory of the shadow clone and knew who came to find him, but it was Konoha Hatake Sakumo. I didn't expect him to come here too. Could it be because of the Sarutobi family and the Shimura family? Xiangchen whispered softly. This is also the only reason Xiangchen can think of. Because of the teleportation of space, Xiangchen shuttles between the 2 battlefields at will, knowing that the battlefield situation of the Kingdom of Rain is not very good. The situation on the battlefield of the Kingdom of Rain can only be said to be fairly stable, and it is inseparable from the high-end combat power of Hatake Sakumo. But now that Hatake Sakumo is here, there is naturally a reason. Although he knew that Hatake Sakumo was looking for him, Hyuga Tatsu didn't take the initiative to see him, and it was estimated that Hatake Sakumo would find him in a while. Since he knew that Hatake Sakumo would come over, there was no need to see him. Sure enough, within 5 or 6 minutes, Hatake Sakumo came over. Isn't Hagai-senpai on the battlefield of the Kingdom of Rain? Why are you here now on the battlefield of the Kingdom of Thunder? Xiangchen asked knowingly. Hatake Sakumo looked very serious, his sharp eyes looked at Xiangchen, and he asked word by word, I want to know how the ninjas of the Sarutobi clan and the ninjas of the Shimura clan died. Ha. Senior Hagai's question is a little nutritious. How can you die on the battlefield? Of course, you died in battle. Xiangchen said with a smile. You can still laugh when your compatriot is dead. Hatake Sakumo said in a low voice. Alas. In fact, I was very sad a few days ago, and even cried several times because of it. But these days I also understand that people can't be resurrected from the dead, so I must face all this with optimism and cheerfulness. Their deaths are not in vain, but very valuable. Without their sacrifices, Yunren has already hit Konoha. They are all heroes of the village, and the village will remember their dedication. Xiangchen pretended to be sad, and even wiped away tears that didn't exist at all. Xiaonan, who was sitting beside him, looked at Xiangchen, and immediately covered his mouth with his hands, for fear that he would laugh out loud. Xiangchen. Hatake Sakumo's expression turned cold, and then he said, I heard that their deaths were all because of you. What? Xiangchen patted the table and stood up in shock. Who did Hatake-senpai listen to? Xiangchen's expression was extremely angry. Then he said indignantly, this must be the news spread by Yunren. Knowing that he can't beat us, he spread false news. It's really a cruel method to make us riot. I didn't expect that Yunren, those reckless men with muscle-filled heads, would have such a plan. It's really despicable and shameless. Hatake Sakumo's face became colder and colder, and the tea in front of him had frozen. Killing the ninjas in your own village is an unforgivable crime. I hope you can confess your guilt so that the punishment can be reduced. Senior Hagai, it seems that you believe that I killed the ninjas of these 2 families, so do you have any evidence? Everyone on the battlefield is a witness. Xiangchen's face turned cold. You ask them to confront me. Xiangchen, don't make one mistake again and again. Go to Lord Hokage to plead guilty. Lord Hokage may give you a light sentence if you take credit for your credit. Frankly, be lenient, sit in prison, resist being strict, go home for the new year. You probably haven't heard of it. Xiangchen said lightly. So you're admitting it's you? Okay, Hatake-senpai, if you have nothing to do, leave. We still have to eat. Hyuga Tatsu interrupted Hagai Sakumo's words, and then ordered the expulsion. Hatake Sakumo's words were smothered in his heart, and it was extremely uncomfortable. I'll leave first. I hope you can think about it clearly. Hatake Sakumo stood up angrily and left. When he came to the door, Hatake Sakumo turned his head, looked at Xiangchen and said, now your battlefield commander position is replaced by me. One more thing. What about the 3rd Raikage? Run. Xiangchen said lightly. He glanced at Xiangchen deeply, and then Hatake Sakumo turned to leave. When he came, the 3 generations of Hokage told him not to have too much conflict with Xiangchen. Xiangchen shrugged and didn't care. He had absolutely no interest in the commander's position. Brother Chen, will you be okay? Xiaonan asked with a little worry. It's okay, Strength determines everything. Let's go and see if Mikoto is ready. Xiangchen hugged Xiaonan, and a space teleport disappeared into the room. It smells so good. What did you do, Mikoto? As soon as he came here, Hyuga 630 Chen smelled the fragrance. If you and Xiaonan come a little later, we'll start eating. We won't wait for you, Duke Sinai said dissatisfiedly. The food had been ready for a while, and Kushina smelled the fragrance, and her saliva was drooling. She wanted to secretly pinch and taste it. Hatake Sakumo was sent to the battlefield with Yunren. Didn't he trouble you? Tsunade asked softly. Find me, but it's no big deal. It's not a big deal to leave Konoha at most. It seems to be good to be a rebel, Xiangchen said indifferently, then peeled off a prawn and put it in Xiaonan bowl. Thank you, Brother Chen. Xiaonan narrowed his eyes happily. When you moved the Sarutobi family and the Shimura family, why didn't you do it secretly? Why did you kill them in front of everyone? Tsunade said with a slight reproach. Cut. How embarrassing it is to sneak in. Xiangchen pouted. Eat first. Let's talk after eating, otherwise the food will be cold for a while. Mikoto said softly. Yes. Is there anything I can't talk about for a while? It has to be said at the dinner table, Kushina said. After eating, Mikoto went to clean the table where Xiaonan also went to the kitchen to help. Kushina covered her stomach and lay on the tatami, eating up. Xiangchen lay comfortably beside Kushina. Chapter 112, The Battlefield Bastard. Xiangchen. You two are really lazy, Tsunade said looking at Xiangchen and Kushina. Sister Tsunade, you are not qualified to speak to us. Kushina squinted at Tsunade who was lying on the table. What are you going to do? Sandai and Danzo will not give up, Tsunade asked Xiangchen. It's alright, anyway. They won't bother me now. Let's wait until the war is over, Xiangchen said nonchalantly. Now that Konoha fights for, he will definitely not give up his super strength, but after the war, it may not be so. But it's still too early to end the war. If Xiangchen does not take action, the war will last at least 4 or 5 years. Do whatever you want, Tsunade said lazily, lying on the table. Mikoto came out of the kitchen, looked at this scene, and shook her head helplessly. After chatting with Mikoto and the others for a while, Xiangchen left. Instead of returning to the battlefield in Yunren village, he went to the logistics department. Nawaki. Xiangchen called out to Nawaki who was busy. Chen, why are you here? Didn't you go to Yunren's battlefield? Shengshu was very surprised when he saw Xiangchen. You are a thousand-handed family, so these are the only ones left. Xiangchen stretched out his hand and pointed to the 3 or 2 people next to him. The original excited expression of Nawaki immediately lowered. We were attacked by San Shinobi before, so they. Xiangchen shook his head, and then called Nawaki to speak. Although Nawaki was puzzled, he still followed Xiangchen out. Chen, you are very majestic now. You can hear your name on the entire battlefield, and even the ninjas around you want you to be Hokage. I'm so envious, Shengshu said enviously. Don't be envious, I came to see you on business. Xiangchen shook his head, then reached out and patted the top of Shengshu's head. A mark appeared on Shengshu's forehead, and then disappeared invisible. What are you doing, Chen? It hurts me to death. Shengshu covered her forehead with her hands. Give you a life-saving thing. Don't be content. What life-saving thing? Shengshu stared at Xiangchen with wide eyes. Xiangchen and Shengshu looked at each other, and the light of Tensai's eyes flashed for a while, then returned to normal, and then said with a smile, you will know later. Now you can go to the waves as much as you like, and you are guaranteed not to die. In Nawaki's eyes, Xiangchen used a transcribed seal to implant the pupil technique, Gaotani Yuan, and also placed a trigger-type space mark on him. After the trigger, Nawaki can be teleported to a specific space. Okay, go back. I'll go first. Xiangchen waved at Shengshu, then turned to leave. Shengshu looked at Xiangchen inexplicably, not knowing what he was doing. So he just left. Didn't he have something to tell him? After giving Shengshu a life-saving trump card, Xiangchen took Xiaonan, Mikoto and their 3 daughters to say goodbye, and teleported back to the Tanzigo Yunren battlefield. In the following time, Xiangchen didn't even go to the battlefield, and stayed in his residence, either teaching Xiaonan to practice, or practicing the immortal mode by himself, becoming the most leisurely one on the battlefield. Father, Xiangchen has not been on the battlefield for a long time, and now the commander of the battlefield is Konoha Shirato Hatake Sakumo. Is there something wrong with Konoha? It should be, but I saw it with my own eyes. That Xiangchen brutally killed Sarutobi and Shimura's ninjas in front of everyone. 3 generations of Ryukage nodded. If Konoha is in conflict, we will have a chance. 3 generations of Ryukage flashed in the eyes. Now Yunren is most afraid of Xiangchen. When Xiangchen used Tensai's chakra mode, he had already scared them to the core. If Xiangchen really made a move, they might have to surrender. The opponent was already too strong, and they couldn't see any hope of victory at all. We can't be careless. Let's test it with Konoha first to see if Xiangchen really doesn't make a move. The 3rd generation of Ryukage still felt that it was better to be careful. After that, the 3 generations of Ryukage brought an elite team to constantly launch sneak attacks on Konoha, causing Konoha's ninjas to suffer heavy casualties. Although White Fang has fought against the third Raikage several times, he is not an opponent at all. Whether it is speed, strength or defense, the third Raikage is better than White Fang. What to do if he can't beat him? White Fang can only go to Xiangchen, but Xiangchen has no time now, and his immortal mode has been cultivated to the most critical time. White Fang touched the dust of his nose, and had to lead Konoha's troops to retreat. The battlefields of the two sides are now in a stalemate, and no one has an absolute advantage. Now it's a war of attrition to see who can hold on first. In the blink of an eye, a year has passed, and the war has lasted for more than a year. At this time, the battlefield has entered a white-hot state, and even the newly graduated genin has been sent to the battlefield. In this year's time, Xiangchen finally successfully learned the fairy mode. Although he could not enter the fairy mode in an instant, it took more than 10 seconds to accumulate energy, but Xiangchen was very satisfied. After Xiangchen entered the fairy mode, the face of the fairy did not appear on his face, but a blue lightning mark appeared on his forehead, and a golden light coat appeared on his body. Xiangchen feels pretty good, at least it looks better than that messy face. After using the immortal mode, he feels a little more handsome. Sometimes Xiangchen sighs, how handsome he is, how can other men live? After being narcissistic for a while, Xiangchen went to the battlefield as a scoundrel, and now Xiangchen is the #1 scoundrel on the battlefield. After entering the battlefield, Xiangchen found a place to sit, and the other party did not dare to come to trouble him at all, and even deliberately avoided where Xiangchen was. I don't understand why the other party is so afraid of you, Yamanaka Heiya said speechlessly. That's because they have wisdom in their eyes. As long as I stand here, even if I don't make a move, it will shine brightly. They can see my extraordinariness at a glance. It seems that the enemy is extraordinary. Xiangchen shook his head narcissistically. Xiangchen took his old classmates to sit in the center of the battlefield. Within a kilometer radius, no cloud dared to approach. Isn't it bad for us to sit here like this? Kudodingzu scratched his head and said, what's wrong? Don't you want to die? Look around, there are ninjas who are so much stronger than you, and they will hang up in minutes. Xiangchen pouted, and then taught Xiaonan to learn ninjutsu. Xiaonan's talent is very good, and now he can use ninjutsu, but unfortunately Xiaonan does not have many chakras, and can only release a few C-level ninjutsu at most. Because Xiaonan does not have a special bloodline limit, there are not many chakras, just the amount of chakras of ordinary ninjas. For ordinary ninjas, chakras need to be used sparingly. It can't be compared with someone like Xiangchen who is an immortal human body. Chakra is like a vast ocean, and can easily enlarge his moves. Chapter 113 Xiangchen takes action. Although Xiangchen didn't take action, the deterrent was still very strong. Now Konoha was beaten by Yunren, but Yunren did not dare to push too hard. Even if he won on the frontal battlefield, Yunren did not dare to attack Konoha's camp directly. The battle lasted for half an hour, and Konoha couldn't hold on any longer and began to retreat. Seeing that he was about to retreat, Xiangchen stood up and patted his butt, then said, retreat, let's go back. Pulling Xiaonan and leaving under the watchful eye of Yunren, the three of Naro Shikisa, Yamanaka Keiichi, and Kudodingzu quickly followed. Yunren's eyes like a wolf like a tiger made them panic. Chen, why are they so afraid of you? Naro Shikaizu asked curiously, looking at Yunren, who was burning with fire in his eyes, but did not dare to take a step forward. Because I am strong. Xiangchen chuckled softly. Not long after returning to the residence, White Fang brought the Patriarch Hyuga to find him. Now Konoha's situation is very bad. Yunren has a large number and strong strength, and now Konoha is about to be unable to hold on. The new generation of pigs and deer butterflies that have never grown up have entered the battlefield, and they know how bad the situation in Konoha is. Senior Hatake and Patriarch Hyuga, I don't know what 027 did when they came to me. You have seen Konoha's situation now. Konoha is in a critical state, and I hope you can take action. White Fang didn't talk nonsense and went straight to the point. The current situation can't tolerate his nonsense anymore, and the three big countries, a small country second only to the big country, can't fight for consumption. Even the rich country of fire can't fight. It can be said that Konoha is dying slowly, and when the national strength is completely exhausted, Konoha will be finished. And the name of the country of fire is also adding to the block at this time, making their resources shrink a lot, and Konoha is getting more and more difficult. Yeah, I hope you can help Konoha, and it can be regarded as helping the Hyuga family. The Patriarch Hyuga also asked. After being silent for a while, Xiangchen said, for the sake of the Hyuga family, I will take action. If Hatake Sakumo came by himself, Hyuga Tatsu would let him go without saying a word, but Hyuga clan chief also came, so Hyuga Tatsu couldn't do that. Although Xiangchen didn't live well at Xiang's house, and was ridiculed, but the resources that should be there, the Hyuga family did not lose any of their own, and let Xiangchen spend the weakest childhood smoothly. Period. The most basic gratitude to Xiangchen is still there. Since the Patriarch of the Sun has also come, Xiangchen will naturally give face. But this kind of face is only once. The Patriarch of Hyuga breathed a sigh of relief. He understood the ridicule that Xiangchen received in the Hyuga family. He thought it would be good for Xiangchen not to hate the Hyuga family, but he didn't expect Xiangchen to give him a face. This made Patriarch Hyuga feel honored. After chatting for a while, White Fang and Patriarch Hyuga left with smiles on their faces. Xiangchen promised them to take action, and Baya, the commander, was relieved. The situation on Yanran's battlefield was indeed not good. The main reason is that his White Fang is not the opponent of the third Raikage. The third Raikage is like his nemesis, and his Hatake swordsmanship cannot cut the third Raikage at all. Moreover, in terms of speed, he was also crushed by the third generation of Raikage. Baya has not been killed by the third generation of Raikage. His strength is already strong. The third generation of Raikage has high defense, strong attack, and fast speed. Except for the unknown resistance to illusion, there are almost no shortcomings. It is indeed very powerful. Unfortunately, it would be a tragedy to encounter a pervert like Xiangchen. On the second day, Xiangchen stood directly at the forefront of the Konoha unit, causing the three generations of Raikage on the opposite side to shudder. 3 generations of Raikage, have you been arrogant for so long? Have you forgotten the fear of being dominated by me? Now let you have a good memory. Rock escape rock giant. Xiangchen made a seal on his hands and patted the ground. The ground began to tremble. A huge rock arm stretched out from the ground, and then the head, body, and feet all drilled out of the ground and stood in the center of the battlefield. The rock giant is 100 meters tall, comparable to Suzu, and can absorb the energy of the earth to repair itself. As long as it stands on the ground with both feet, it will never be defeated. Yan-dun is a boundary created by Xiangchen when he is bored. It is a combination of Tu-dun and Yang-dun, and its power is much greater than that of Tu-dun. Although this rock giant seems to be similar in ability to the big stone statue of Tensogun, it is actually a little bit different. The big stone statue summoned by Tensogun can continue to recover as long as the caster is undefeated, while the rock giant cannot recover as long as it leaves the ground and is shattered. However, the rock giant is still very strong. If you want to defeat the rock giant, you must knock the rock giant into the air, and then break it into pieces before the rock giant falls to the ground. To a certain extent, this rock giant is actually more perverted than Suzu, and Suzu needs to be repaired by chakra to be destroyed. However, unless the rock giant is completely solved, any damage can be repaired by itself, and the consumption can consume you to death. Except for the release of a large amount of chakra, the rock giant is self-sufficient and can be called a perpetual motion machine. Looking at the tall rock giant, Yanren's face changed wildly. This kind of thing that can cause an earthquake even if you walk. If it breaks into the crowd, you can step on a large area. Roar. The rock giant roared, then stepped on the ground, and a deep crack spread toward Yanren. Dodge. 3 generations of Raikage shouted. Although the 3 generations of Raikage have been reminded in time, the cracks have spread too fast, and many Yan ninjas still fall before they could rescue the people. The crack closed suddenly, and Yanren, who fell, would sleep in the ground forever. The 3 generations of Raikage looked at it with red eyes. The Konoha camp was full of excitement, and Xiangchen's shot made them confident. The rock giant stepped forward and walked towards Yanren, and every step made the earth tremble. Xiangchen, who was standing behind, frowned. The rock giant's movement speed was a bit slow. It seems that the practicality of this rock giant will be greatly reduced. Xiangchen shook his head. This kind of speed is basically useless against the strong, because it can't hit anyone at all. It seems that we have to find a way to improve it, and we can't just let it go. This Yan-dun was also the first blood successor boundary developed by Xiangchen himself, and Xiangchen naturally didn't want to let it be such a waste. While Xiangchen was thinking, the 3rd generation of Raikage had already used the Hellstab 4 books to violently smash one of the rock giant's legs. But to the despair of the 3 generations of Raikage, almost the moment he shattered, the rock giant was restored to its original state. Fortunately, the fast movement of the rock giant gave the 3 generations of Raikage more comfort. Dodge it for me, I'll block it. The 3rd Raikage fist collided with the giant fist of the rock giant, and then the 3rd Raikage flew out, and the rock giant also took a few steps back. Chapter 114. The rock cage kills 3,000 cloud ninjas. Although the rock giant is powerful, because of its speed, it was blocked by the 3rd Raikage alone. Brother Chen, this big guy seems to be a little weak, Xiaonan said with his head tilted. Ahahaha. Xiangchen laughed awkwardly, and then said, I have found a way, and soon this big guy will soar into the sky. Under the control of Xiangchen, the rock on the rock giant collapsed. As if it was about to collapse. 3 generations of Raikage froze for a moment. Could it be that Xiangchen has lifted this ninjutsu? But the rock giant has not been lifted. After the rock collapsed, the originally strong rock giant has now turned into a stickman form and is thin into a stick. The rock giant at this time was walking like flying, and the speed was faster than that of Suzu. He took a few steps to the front of the 3rd Raikage, and then punched down. 3 generations of Raikage sneered. This speed is indeed faster, but the same attack power and defense power will be reduced. The 3 generations of Raikage were surrounded by thunder and lightning, and they were not afraid to meet the fist of the rock giant. But what the other 3 Raikage didn't expect was that the rock instantly returned to the rock giant, turned into a strong rock giant again, and smashed the defenseless 3 Raikage to vomit blood. The 3 generations of Raikage who smashed onto the ground spat out a few mouthfuls of blood and looked at the rock giant in disbelief. At this time, the rock giant once again turned into a stickman-like speed form. Sample, I still can't cure you, Xiangchen said with a smile. The rock giant that can change its form, I will ask you if you are afraid. This way the rock giant will not be so useless and can also be used against the strong rock escape rock cage. Countless rock railings rose from the ground, forming a huge spherical cage, enclosing the 3,000 young ninjas inside. Xiangchen was completely trapped inside, and then the rock railings changed into sharp stone blades, and the entire cage began to shrink continuously. This is an ninjutsu created by Xiangchen imitating Doflamingo's birdcage, but it has changed from a sharp thread to a sharp ox blade. I'll leave the rest to you, Xiangchen said to White Fang. Xiangchen has already trapped half of Yanren's combat power. If Konoha still can't beat him, then simply surrender. Hatake Sakumo nodded, then looked at the rock cage, frowned and said, isn't this too cruel? Then why don't I release them, and then you bring someone to fight? Xiangchen glanced at Hatake Sakumo and said lightly. Hatake Sakumo was speechless. Damn. The third Raikage, who was knocked away by the rock giant again, looked at the rock cage, and the anger in his heart was ignited. He wanted to rush over to rescue the people inside, but was stopped by the rock giant. Because of his impatience, he took a few punches and was severely injured. He could only watch the shrinkage of the rock cage. Don't be afraid, everyone, attack together and smash this cage, a quasi-shadow from Yanren village shouted. Hearing his shouts, the somewhat turbulent Yanren, who was trapped in the cage, also quieted down and began to attack the shrunken rock's blade. But what made them desperate was that they couldn't move at all. These rock's blades were much harder than steel, and the kunai and ninja knives in their hands were all cracked. Even the dun, which restrains earth dun, has no effect on these sharp rock blades, making these ninjas trapped inside desperate. Every inch of this rock cage shrinks, the time they can survive is shortened by 1 point. This feeling of being unable to wait for death broke their hearts, and some even had thoughts of suicide. Death is not scary, what is scary is watching yourself slowly die while you do nothing. How can you just wait to die like this? Break it for me. Boom. The invincible rock blade shattered, but before Yanren was excited, it quickly healed, and the contraction speed doubled again. Laugh. The first ninja to be split by a rock blade appeared, and then it was like cutting wheat. People kept falling down, and not even a whole corpse was left. In the blink of an eye, more than 1,000 died, not even a complete corpse. Leave. No. Stop it. 3 generations of Liang shed 2 lines of tears in his eyes, surrounded by thunder, like a thunder coming into the world, frantically attacking the rock giant who hindered his footsteps. Xiangchen, why are you so cruel? Why? 3 generations of Liang shouted in the sky. His voice could be heard throughout the battlefield, and the sadness in his voice could be heard even more. Xiangchen, I beg you to let them go. They still have families, and their families are still waiting for them to go back. I can exchange my life for theirs, I beg you. The steel-boned 3rd generation Raikage stopped attacking, knelt on the ground, and looked at Xiangchen pleadingly. The rock giant's waving fist stopped. The originally shrunk rock cage also stopped, and the fighting on the battlefield stopped. All eyes were focused on the 3rd Raikage. Lord Raikage. Yanren's eyes were red as he looked at the 3 generations of Raikage kneeling on the ground. Lord Raiying doesn't need to care about us. It doesn't matter if we die. We people in Yanren village are greedy for life and fear of death. Yes, why beg that cruel and despicable guy? Father. Ai clenched his fists. His father, who never bowed his head, actually knelt down to others. This is the battlefield. You are the only one who will die. If you are afraid of death, don't start a war. Since you are involved in a war, you must be prepared to die. Begging for mercy will only make me look down. Xiangchen chuckled lightly, then his face turned cold, he stretched out his hand to hold it, and the rock cage that had stopped shrunk to a point in an instant. None of the 3,000 Yanren was spared, and blood flowed into rivers on the battlefield. 3 generations of Raikage's pupils shrank sharply, with grief and hatred on his face. Why? They are all ordinary ninjas, and there is no threat to you at all. Why do you still brutally kill them? 3 generations of Raikage asked frantically. Xiangchen Yanren just turned into a corpse in front of his eyes. How did he explain to the villagers? How to explain to their families? How to live up to his position as Raikage? You will not know my strength, but you continue to fight Konoha for the sake of luck and profit in your heart. All this is entirely your own fault. If you choose to retreat and surrender, they will not die. God's sins can be forgiven, Self-inflicted sins can't live. Xiangchen said lightly. That's not your reason to kill those who don't resist. Reasons. If you want, I can give you hundreds of them. Do you need them? Xiangchen said with a sneer. Weakness is the original sin. If they have the strength to resist me, will they still be killed? This is the rule of this world. Xiangchen, it sounds so nice. In fact, you are making excuses for killing. You have no humanity at all. You are a bloodthirsty demon. I said angrily at Xiangchen. Ha ha ha. Don't put yourself on the side of justice. If you want to prove that I'm a bad guy and a devil, you can, as long as you defeat me. Whatever you say is what you say. Xiangchen said with a big smile. Chapter 115. The soldier will win. It's the first time I've seen Chen like this. It's really scary. Yamanaka Heiyi, who was at the back, shuddered. Everyone has two sides, even multiple sides, and treats different people differently. Nara Shikahisa said softly. Xiangchen, do you really have no guilt for killing so many people? Looking at the smile on Xiangchen's face, the 3 generations of Ryukage asked angrily. Guilty? Why feel guilty? Do you feel guilty for crushing a group of ants? Xiangchen asked back. Yanren was instantly angry. His eyes were extremely blood red. Xiangchen actually compared them to ants and stopped treating them as human beings. Are you angry? In fact, in my eyes, you are the same as the flowers and plants on the roadside and the beasts in the deep jungle. I have never regarded you as human beings. Xiangchen said indifferently. Yanren's eyes were bloodshot, and his anger and hatred had already rushed to the sky. If he still had some reason, he would have rushed to tear Xiangchen to pieces. Instead of looking at me angrily, think about your current situation. I want to kill you, but it's just a matter of snapping my fingers. Xiangchen said aloud. The 3 generations of Ryukage froze, looking at Xiangchen vigilantly, for fear that Xiangchen would attack them again. However, the 3rd generation of Ryukage thought too much. Xiangchen directly lifted the rock giant, and then took Xionen's hand and left. Thank you for my mercy. I'll let you go today, or all of you will die. Yanren was so angry that he killed so many of them, yet shamelessly asked them to thank him. White Fang, do we still want to? Uchiha had gestured to Hatake Sakumo. Now is the best opportunity. Next time, I may not be able to ask him to take action. This time, it is best to completely defeat Yanren. Hatake Sakumo looked cold, and took the knife to kill the 3 generations of Ryukage. Ding, ding, ding. Hatake Sakumo slashed several times in a row, all of which hit the 3rd Ryukage, but it seemed like he was slashing on steel, and it had no effect at all. You want to kill me too? Do you think you are Xiangchen? The angry 3rd generation Ryukage vented all his anger on Hatake Sakumo. 3 generations of Ryukage's eyes were red, and even though he was severely injured by the rock giant, his bravery remained undiminished, and he was even more insane because of his anger. Completely ignoring Hatake Sakumo's attack, he lashed out at Hatake Sakumo, punching his fist faster than a punch. At the beginning, Hatake Sakumo could barely resist with his fighting consciousness. Later, it gradually couldn't keep up. The attack speed of the 3rd generation Ryukage was too fast. Even if the direction of the attack could be sensed, the body movements could not keep up and could not be resisted. 3 generations of Ryukage seized the opportunity and hit Hatake Sakumo with a few punches, breaking several ribs of Hatake Sakumo. Fortunately, the 3rd Ryukage was also not lightly injured, and Hatake Sakumo's speed was also his strength, otherwise he might have been beaten to death by the violent 3rd Ryukage with his fist. Hatake Sakumo wiped the blood coughing up from the corner of his mouth, his face pale for a while. When facing other enemies in the past, Hatake Sakumo only needed to rely on Lushan to approach the opponent, and then use the blade of White Fang to add the penetrating power of Ludun to instantly end the enemy's life. But now he is facing an unstoppable 3rd generation Ryukage, and his speed is not as fast as the 3rd generation Ryukage, so it is certain that he will be beaten passively. The 3rd Ryukage was a rock giant whose attack power was no worse than that of a complete body Suzu, and a man who could still stand still with a dozen punches in a row. Hatake Sakumo was at a disadvantage on this side, and the battle between Konoha and Yanren on the other side was also at a disadvantage. The underdog will win. The saddened Yanren took out 200% of his strength, and went crazy with Konoha. Ninja desperately. Yanren is crazy. They are not afraid of pain, not afraid of death. They just want to bite a piece of meat on Konoha's body. They all transferred their hatred to Xiangchen to the other ninjas in Konoha. Yanren's crazy appearance made Konoha's ninja fearful, so where is the opponent's opponent? He was pressed and beaten crazily. I'm going. Is there a mistake? Even so, I was beaten. Xiangchen was speechless. Unexpectedly, he had already wiped out half of the opponent's fighting power, and Konoha was still being pressed and beaten. This is Ada who can't help. In this situation, should I take another shot? Xiangchen thought while rubbing his chin. If you take action, you will slap yourself in the face, and you have said before that you will be merciful and let them go, pretending to be a force. Now I can't do anything to them anymore. Just slap myself in the face. Wouldn't that be a laughing stock? Although Xiangchen doesn't care about his reputation, he shouldn't be so embarrassed. Chen, what are you still doing? Our situation is very bad now. Hurry up and take action. Yamanaka Heiei shouted loudly. I just said I wanted to let the other party go. Isn't it slapped in the face now? Although I am thick-skinned, I still have to be shy. Xiangchen shook his head and said, what time is it? You still care about this? Yamanaka Heiei looked at Xiangchen speechlessly. How can you not care? You can only blame them for not being able to live up to their expectations. It's already like this, and they are still being hanged and beaten. Xiangchen said contemptuously. Hey, although you destroyed half of Yanren's power, even if Yanren has half of his power left, he won't be much worse than Konoha. Yamanaka Heiei complained. It's just about the same number of people. In terms of strength, it's still Konoha. Don't forget that the ninjas here are almost all that ninjas from big families, and they all have blood and secret techniques. The reason why Konoha is at a disadvantage now is entirely because of lack of momentum. Nara Shikahisa said with a wry smile. It is said that Konoha should be the most powerful party now, but because of the hatred in his heart, with the momentum of not being afraid of life and death, Konoha stubbornly fought back. Actually, as long as you curb Yanren's momentum now and let go of the tone in their hearts, they will definitely lose. Nara Shikahisa said with a gleam in his eyes. This is up to Chen. You don't need to take action. Just deter them. Nara Shikahisa looked at Xiangchen. The only one who can curb Yanren's momentum is Xiangchen, because on the entire battlefield, only Xiangchen has the power to deter Yanren. All right. Looking at Shikahisa, Nara, Keiichi Yamanaka, and Dingza Akito, the three pairs of expectant A's, Hyuga Tatsu nodded and agreed. They are also considered friends. Although Xiangchen is not very good towards strangers, he is still quite good to friends. As long as it is not an excessive request, Xiangchen will generally not refuse. Psychic Beast Five-Tailed King Mew. With a howl, the huge body of the Five Tails appeared on the battlefield. Although the chakra drawn by Xiangchen had not recovered, the figure was scary enough. Anyway, after the appearance of the Five Tails, the battle on the battlefield gradually stopped, and they all looked at the huge-tailed beast behind the Konoha army. If you like this audiobook, subscribe the channel for more videos like this. Leave some comment and let me know if you guys like this story, or you have a web novel you like and want to hear its audiobook. I will be happy to create them for you. Please like, share, and leave a comment on the video.